Hey, this is Kenneth, and today I wanted to show you my Twitter connected camera, which I built for Maker Faire Bay Area 2019. Like most good Maker Faire projects, the inspiration for this kind of struck me about 2 or 3 weeks in advance, and so on the outside of it, it's relatively what you would really expect for a camera. We've got two LEDs, a push button, a lens on the front here. So let's just take the photo to begin with to let it start processing. Cheese! And then when it takes the photo, it then lights up this front LED, and then as it's processing it, it then turns it off. This top LED here, it may not show up that well, but every few seconds it just blinks as kind of a heartbeat to let me know that the Python script running this successfully started. Nice clicky button that I found, and then I also added a toggle switch for timer mode. And so if I want to like place this somewhere and then press the button, it blinks 3 times and then blinks rapidly 3 times, and then it takes a photo. So that's what it looks like on the outside. On the inside, this was made out of a 3 by 4 inch by 7 inch just piece of cardboard box, and so on the inside of it we've got a 10 amp hour USB battery pack, and then I found the right angle USB cable to plug into a Raspberry Pi there. Raspberry Pi has a bit of perf board with some female sockets soldered onto it, and that's really just a few breakouts and like like 2 transistors to drive the LEDs, which really probably wasn't necessary, but I wasn't quite sure how bright I wanted the LEDs to be, so I put transistors on the 5-volt line. So this ball of wire over here runs up to the toggle switch, the 2 LEDs, and the button. That part's really pretty simple. The inputs for the switch and the button are relatively simple because the Raspberry Pi supports internal pull-up resistors, and so these are literally just connecting one of the GPIO pins to ground. The LEDs are buffered through the transistors just to be able to run them on the 5-volt rail, and so they're just, you could really wire them up per any tutorial. And then finally I bought the Raspberry Pi version 2 camera module, which sits here, and it's powered and it feeds data back over this ribbon cable to the camera CSI port on the Raspberry Pi. The Raspberry Pi itself then is running Raspbian Lite, just because, there's no user interface on this other than the button. But that really, I wanted to build a Twitter connected camera, right? So that's really, I think there was nothing there that was terribly unexpected, but something that what really stuck in my brain about this and what I really wanted was I wanted to build a robust Twitter connected camera, because I've seen lots of people build these sorts of fun internet connected devices, bring them to Maker Faire where there's then 100,000 people, and their device no longer works because they can't stay tethered to their phone, and their phone can't stay online, and they can't keep their phone in hotspot mode all weekend. And so I was thinking about, how could I make this Twitter connected camera really pretty fault tolerant? And what struck me was that I should think about what protocols were designed when internet wasn't necessarily 100% stable, right? Because like the classic way to do this was you would have the Python script capture the photo and then immediately upload it to Twitter using like Tweepy, which was like the Python Twitter API. But that assumes that your Python script here can directly talk to Twitter. And so, per this beautiful hand-drawn diagram I have here, which I guess I should probably label, everything in this is inside the Raspberry Pi. So, what my idea is that getting the photos out of, the Raspberry Pi, I'm not depending on the Python script being able to talk to Twitter, as I instead have the camera module. So the Python script is sitting there looking for a negative edge on one of the GPIO pins, which is the shutter button. And so the camera module is tied in this Python script that when it sees you press the shutter button, It captures the photo. It writes it to the local disks just so that I can, have a full resolution copy of it at the end of the weekend. And then it actually forms an email. It sends an email and hands that off to Postfix. Postfix is a local mail transfer agent, whether you use SendMail or Postfix or Exim4. It doesn't really matter. The main thing is this is a mail server running locally on the Raspberry Pi. And so the Python script capturing the photos will always be able to talk to this email server because it's local to the Raspberry Pi. This was attractive to me because email was designed at a time when the internet had a lot of very intermittent links, and so there's a lot of retry logic and message queuing in email. And so then it was just a question of how do I convert an email with a photo attachment into a Twitter message? And that's where if this then that comes in, IFTTT, which is a fun API glue service online, which, I mean, there's several of them. This is kind of one of the more classic ones. And so I have Postfix configured with a relay agent, which you can use Gmail here if you want it. I just used a random mail server I had laying around from another project. So Postfix continually during the Maker Faire will try and deliver these email messages, and once it somehow manages to tether to my phone, which is then somehow manages to get internet, it'll then hand off these messages pretty reliably to the mail server. Mail server then will immediately deliver it to if this then that, because this is hosted in a data center with real internet. And then on if this then that, I created, there are several from email to Twitter applets, but none of them, I couldn't quite get any of them to work with the photo as an attachment. So I went into the if this then that platform and said, I'm a new outfit. I want to make applets for this. And I literally just said, accept a message from the mail service, take the body of the email, look for an email with hashtag Twitter in the subject line, and take the body of the email and put it in the body of the Twitter message, and take the attachment and put it as the media on the Twitter, right? And so every time that I press the button here, it queues up another photo. And then once the Raspberry Pi eventually gets online, this mail server hands it off to my other mail server, because I can't do this directly because consumer internet and the hotspot in your phone, for somewhat valid reasons, isn't allowed to really directly send port 25 email to anyone else because, that's how spam happens. And so, you have to have some sort of smart relay agent in the middle, and to then hand it off to if this and that, which then puts on Twitter, right? And so now if we go to Twitter, so this is my test Twitter account, you will see that this tweet has gotten on Twitter. So there we go, right? So that's my Twitter connected camera, which several people I know have made Twitter connected cameras, but what really struck me that I wanted to try on this one was thinking about the failure mode for when the Raspberry Pi loses contact with the internet. And so it's actually worked pretty well. I haven't taken it to Maker Faire yet, so we're going to see how that does. If you see me at Maker Faire, feel free to come up and take a selfie with me, because I want to take as many photos as possible with this. But the mail server, it's in all of my testing so far in my apartment, unplugging the access point and taking a couple of photos and then power cycling the Raspberry Pi, it's worked pretty well. And that's really a testament to how well email was designed at a time when that mattered. Although the one thing I did change on Postfix was normally Postfix starts retrying at 5-minute intervals and eventually hour-long intervals. And I wanted it to be a little more aggressive than that, so I have it retrying every 30 minutes. Sorry, not every 30 minutes, every 30 seconds, which normally is pretty impolite on a mail server, except that the only mail server that this one is hammering is my personal mail server, which then relays it from my mail domain over to if this then that. And so I have it retrying every 30 seconds, and then it tries for 5 days, which is actually the default, but 5 days is, a pretty good time. If this camera hasn't managed to upload all the photos after 5 days of after Maker Faire, the photo was probably never going to get up in the first place. So yeah, I think the interesting part here is using postfix as this message queue, because it's a pretty robust one. And thanks for watching.